Kia ora koutou katoa, it's Mrs. Goodson here, and this is video 3 of Chemistry 2.4, Bonding and Structure, and it's all about ions. And the learning objective is to be able to explain the difference between an atom and an ion using electron configurations. So what is an ion? And ions are charged particles. They form when an atom of an element, either gains or loses electrons. Okay. An ion is an atom, or it could be a group of atoms which has gained or lost electrons. So elements are most stable when the outer energy level or the valence shell is full. So the elements can lose or gain electrons when they react with other chemicals to form ions. And they do this to achieve stability. Okay, so you've got you end up with either positive ions with a positive charge or negative ions with a negative charge. Okay. Atoms with filled outer levels are the most stable. An atom will gain or lose electrons in order to have a filled valence shell. Ions have different chemical properties and a different physical appearance to the elements they originated from. An example of this is sodium, which is Na. It's got 11 protons and 11 electrons and 11 protons. And so it's got a electron configuration of 2, 8, 1. Okay. Whereas chlorine has got an electron configuration of 2, 8, 7. Okay, so that means that sodium has 1 valence electron and chlorine has 7 valence electrons. So sodium atoms, to get a full outer shell, are more likely to lose this 1 outer electron, whereas chlorine is more likely to gain 1 electron to form a full outer shell of 8 over here. So what happens is that the electron passes from the sodium element to the chlorine element in a chemical reaction. And so now sodium only has 2 energy levels. And so now it's lost this electron. So now it's got an electron configuration of 2, 8, and it becomes an ion because it's still got 11 protons, but now it's only got 10 electrons. So it's got more protons than electrons. Protons are positive, so you end up with one more. It's got a charge of +1. Whereas chlorine now becomes the chlorine ion, which is known as chloride, and so it is got an electron configuration of 2, 8, 8 because it's gained 1 electron. Okay, so positive ions are called cations. So if you think about a positive cat, and anions or anion have negative. So it's just the name for them. Cations are positive and anions are negative. So metals on the left-hand side of the periodic table are more likely to lose electrons and form cations like sodium did, and non-metals like chlorine are more likely to gain electrons and become anions. So here is a chart of cations. So metals that have formed ions, group 1 over here, are going to lose 1 electron, so they've got a charge of +1. So we've got sodium, potassium, silver. Ammonium is a group, okay? So it's got some nitrogen and some hydrogen, but overall it's got a charge of +1. So that's one that is a group of atoms. And then we've got copper, which comes from the name cuprous, which is the copper 1. And just have a quick look over here. There's copper 2 over here as well, which has got a charge of +2. All right, that's called cupric. And then we've got hydrogen and lithium. All right, so those are our +1s, and we've got magnesium. Iron Fe2 plus also has a version of Fe3 plus. And then we've got zinc, barium, lead. So all of these ones in this column has lost 2 electrons to form an ion with +2 charge. And then aluminium, iron 3 and chromium have all lost 3 electrons to form an ion with a charge of +3. Whereas these non-metals have gained electrons. If these ones here have gained 1 electron, and then we've got some interesting groups here. So we've got the permanganate ion, we've got the thiocyanate ion, hydroxide you might have come across before, hydrogen carbonate, which is what baking soda is made from, hydrogen sulfide, this one here it's nitrate and hypochlorite. All right, so you need to be really familiar with these ions in these two tables, cations and anions. And these ones have a charge of -2. So we've got carbonate, oxide, sulfide, and then if it's got an oxygen in it, it's going to have an H name in it. Okay, so we've got sulfate, we've got sulfite, which is only 3 oxygens, thiosulfate, chromate, dichromate. Okay. And this one here is the only one you need to know. The -3 is phosphate. So those are the cations and anions you need to be familiar with. So thinking about the electron configuration of ions. So if you've got the calcium atom, which has 20 electrons, so it goes 2, 8, 8, 2. The ones on the outside, these valence electrons get lost when it in a chemical reaction, it forms calcium ion, right? So now it's gone from 4 electron shells to only 3 electron shells, but they're full, okay? So it's more stable. So calcium ion. So calcium is found, calcium atoms form calcium metal, which is really a very reactive metal, and calcium ion is a very stable ion, and that's what we found in our bones is calcium ion. So overall calcium atom has no charge, and when it reacts, it loses 2 electrons. So it only has 18 electrons, but it still has 20 protons, and protons are positive, electrons are negative. So overall, we've got a charge of +2 on the calcium ion. Whereas anions are more likely to gain electrons. So have a look at this chlorine atom. It's got a valence electrons of 7. So it gains an electron, gains 1 electron. So now it has a full shell of 2, 8, 8. All right, so this outside one has gone from 7 to 8. Okay. And so it has 17 protons and 18 electrons. And electrons are negative charge. It's got one more negative charge. So overall, a chloride ion has a charge of -1. So we just put a little minus next to it. So make sure you check out the difference between the atom and the ion. It's a big difference. Okay, so this video has been about how to define what an ion is. It's a charged particle that is, it's an atom that has lost or gained electrons, and you can name the different ions, the cations and anions in the list in this PowerPoint, and that you can calculate the number of valence electrons of an ion. Because it's an atom, you have to work out the atom, and then you either add or lose electrons. And that has been this video, an introduction to ions.